Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into some pretty intense stuff
Oh,
today.
yeah, definitely intense. AI.
Buckle up, because we're tackling an article called AI What's Wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets right to the point, claiming the real race in AI.
Yeah.
It's not about profits. It's about
It's not about the money.
world domination. I mean,
Yeah, world
it's
domination
just all
sounds...
dramatic, right?
Yeah, it does.
Straight out of a movie, but
A little dramatic at first, yeah.
the more you dig into the details,
Absolutely, but you really start to see
the article lays out a pretty convincing argument.
a compelling case. Yeah.
So let's break it down. I mean, we hear all the time.
Yeah.
Politicians, big names, Prime Minister Starmer,
Mm-hmm.
President von der Leyen, even President Biden,
Yeah.
all talking about AI
Right, right.
and the importance of,
Leading the way.
leading the way. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about economic competition, national leadership. Like, they want to make sure their countries are building the best AI, not just using it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes sense on the surface.
Yeah, totally.
We want our countries
Yeah.
to be at the forefront of innovation, to be the leaders.
Of course.
But this article, it kind of flips that on its head and suggests maybe
Right.
this focus on who's building the best AI. Maybe
It's a distraction.
it's a distraction. Like, what if the real prize isn't about making the best AI,
Right.
but about who controls the most powerful AI?
Okay, now you've got me really thinking. What does that even mean, like, practically?
So the article dives into something called frontier models.
Frontier models.
And these are, think OpenAI's GPT, Google's Lambda.
Okay,
The
yeah.
big, powerful AI systems, right?
So not just like AI tools, but like
They're not just tools. Think of them more as like
the foundation.
a foundation, almost like an operating system
Oh,
that
yeah.
everything else is built on top of.
Okay, so instead of focusing on, I don't know, like individual AI tools
Right.
or whatever we should be paying attention to.
Who controls these massive
Foundational
models?
These foundational models, yeah.
Exactly. And, imagine a future where
Yeah.
you can't even access, say, healthcare
Right.
unless you use a specific frontier model, or where educational resources are
Yeah.
completely controlled by a single AI system.
Wow, okay. That puts things into perspective.
Right.
Like, suddenly economic competition
Yeah.
seems pretty insignificant compared to,
Yeah.
one entity
Yeah.
controlling like the infrastructure
The infrastructure of our lives, yeah.
of our lives. So who are these potential puppet masters?
Well, the article highlights a company called Palantir.
Palantir?
You might not know them as well as like a Google,
Great.
but they're making huge profits,
Mm.
primarily from government contracts,
Oh,
especially in like sensitive areas,
Interesting.
like intelligence and military applications.
so everyone's focused on the big tech companies, and Palantir is kind of operating in the shadows, getting all this power and influence
Yeah.
through these government deals. And I can't help but notice, like, their name,
Yeah.
Palantir, like the Seeing Stones in Lord of the Rings. It almost feels,
Right. It's
Sem-
it's a pretty striking analogy.
yeah,
And then you have the founder, Peter Thiel,
Yeah.
who has been very open about
yeah,
his desire for power control.
right. With all his investments in AI, SpaceX,
Mm-hmm.
it paints a clear picture, of someone.
Of someone who sees technology as a path to
Driven-
immense power. Yeah.
Yeah, almost like this dystopian novel where a handful of people control the most important technologies,
Mhm.
and by extension, like, our lives.
Yeah, it's a scary thought.
Yeah. Is that really what we're...
Well, I mean, the article doesn't say
Eddie, go
it's the inevitable outcome. It's more like a wake-up call.
Oh,
It's
sure.
saying, hey, look, there are different approaches to AI
Oh, yeah.
development. The West seems really fixated on
Economic competition.
economic competition. Exactly.
Yeah.
But China
China has a...
totally different perspective.
Yeah.
They see AI as a tool for,
Global dominance.
global dominance. I mean, you hear all the time about how they're investing heavily
Yeah.
using AI to, strengthen their military,
Mhm.
expand their economic influence.
Exactly. They understand the power dynamics here. And they're not shying away
Right.
from using AI
From using it
to achieve their goals.
to meet those goals. Yeah.
Hmm.
So then where does that leave? Like Europe,
Right. The article argues that Europe is kind of
stuck in the middle.
stuck, between the U.S. and China,
Yeah.
and they're at risk of being left behind.
So do we all need to learn to code? Like, what's the solution here?
The article proposes something pretty interesting.
Okay.
It suggests that Europe should invest heavily
Okay.
in developing a publicly owned
A publicly owned
frontier model.
frontier model.
That's fascinating.
Right.
I mean, could that be a way to
It's an interesting thought.
counterbalance the power of these
Of these private corporations.
private corporations and make
Wow.
sure AI is being used?
Yeah, for the benefit of society.
Yeah.
And not just for profit or control.
It's a really provocative suggestion, and
Yeah.
it raises a lot of questions like,
Of course, like,
can a government-run AI compete with,
the resources.
expertise?
These tech giants.
Yeah, and how do you
Like,
make sure
guarantee.
that it's accountable, that it's transparent,
Yeah.
that it's not used for,
For political gain.
political manipulation, right?
Right. I mean, those are big questions.
Huge questions.
We can't answer in one, deep dive.
Definitely not.
But it's definitely a sign that we're starting to understand
Yeah,
what's really at stake here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of understanding the enormity,
Yeah.
there's another...
Of what's at stake. Piece of this we need to, the
Yeah.
fact that AI is
Yeah.
becoming really good at
What?
coding.
Wait, hold on. AI can write code now.
So pretty crazy, right?
I thought that was like the one thing.
You would think humans
That's where we would always
have the upper hand, yeah.
have the upper hand, yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that,
Well, as the article points out,
This-
changes things
Yeah.
significantly,
especially considering everything we've just been talking about, yeah.
especially when you think about the power dynamics.
So if AI can code, does that mean it can
Oh, well, theoretically.
create more AI?
Yeah.
And wouldn't that just accelerate?
It could
The power shift.
accelerate the
Like, would governments even
right. How do you
regulate something
accelerate something
that's constantly evolving?
It's constantly changing, yeah. That's a
It's a big question.
big question. It feels like we're heading into uncharted territory.
Uncharted territory. And I think this is where things get
This is where it gets interesting.
really interesting. So
yeah.
AI can write code,
Mm.
but what does that, I don't know, like actually mean for us in the real world? Is
Yeah.
this just some, like, cool tech trick? Or are we
Right.
talking about something that's really going to change things?
It's definitely more than just a cool trick.
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about those frontier models
Yeah.
becoming like the foundation of everything?
Right.
Well, if AI can code, then it can theoretically, build
Right.
and maintain those models itself.
So it's not just that AI can write code.
Right.
It's that it could, like, take over the entire process
Potentially, yeah.
of AI development. That's
Yeah.
kind of scary.
It is. Just imagine a scenario where those models are constantly learning, improving themselves without any human intervention.
Yeah.
They could become so complex,
Right.
so interconnected that we might not even understand how they work anymore, let alone, control them.
That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right.
But is that something we need to worry about now? Or is that, like way off in the future?
Well, the article argues that the future might be closer than we think.
Okay.
The speed at which AI is evolving is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago.
Remember, even just a few years ago, the
There-
idea of AI writing code was sci-fi.
Right, right.
Now it's just, it's reality.
So what do we do? Do we, like, try to stop AI development? Or is it
I don't think it's about stopping progress.
too late?
It's about being smart about it.
Yeah.
AI has the potential to do so much good to
Yeah.
solve, climate change, diseases,
Right.
all these problems, but
Yeah.
we need to be careful.
So the article seems to be saying that maybe the West's approach to AI, with the focus on competition, profit, maybe that's actually making things worse.
It does raise concerns
Yeah.
about the unintended consequences. When we're so focused on just getting ahead,
Right.
on being first, on the profits,
Yeah.
sometimes we overlook the risks.
And that's where China's approach.
It's so
different.
totally different. They're not just thinking about the money.
Right.
They're thinking about the strategic implications.
So they see it as a tool for...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Enhancing their military,
Mhm.
expanding their economic influence.
So while we're trying to figure out
Right.
how to make money from AI,
They're using it
they're using it to...
to reshape the world. Yeah.
Yeah. What about Europe?
The article suggests they're in a tough spot.
Yeah.
They risk being kind of squeezed between the U.S. and China,
Yeah.
becoming reliant on their technology.
So that's where this idea of a
Right.
publicly owned
Yeah.
frontier model comes in.
Potentially. Yeah.
Could that be
It's a bold idea.
Europe's answer?
It's worth exploring.
It's definitely a really interesting idea.
The article suggests it could help to make sure that, that AI benefits everyone.
Right. Not just
Could be,
a few corporations or whatever.
like few, yeah.
But wouldn't that, a publicly owned model, wouldn't that have its own
Of course,
warmth?
it would be a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
You'd need international cooperation.
Yeah.
Coordination, we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
But the potential benefits are huge,
Yeah.
in terms of making sure we have democratic control over AI.
It's definitely a lot to consider.
It is.
It seems like we're at a crossroads.
Yeah.
We can continue down this path of, unchecked development driven by competition and profit, or
we can find
or we try to find
a better way.
A better way.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets
interesting.
really interesting.
This isn't just about technology. It's about society.
Yeah.
We need to talk about.
We need to have these conversations.
Kind of future we want.
Yeah. We can't just leave it to the tech companies or the governments to decide.
We need to be informed, engaged, and we need to be ready to advocate for the world we want to live in.
Yeah. That brings us back to the article. It argues that this race for AI...
It's a race for control.
...is about control.
Yeah.
And if we want to make sure that AI is used to help people, not just, the powerful...
We need to find a way to...
find a way to democratize it.
Democratize AI.
Yeah. What does that even look like? What does it mean?
It means making sure everyone has a say.
Right.
Not just the governments and corporations.
Yeah.
It means transparency, accountability, making sure it respects human rights.
That sounds like a huge challenge.
It is.
But we can't just ignore it.
Absolutely not. If access to AI is the ultimate source of power,
right,
we have to make sure that power is shared fairly, responsibly.
We can't just sit back and hope that technology will solve all our problems.
Yeah. Exactly. We need to be a part of shaping the future.
Yeah.
Be critical thinkers.
Right.
Informed citizens. Advocate for the world we want.
Well, we've definitely covered a lot today.
We have.
Explored the potential of AI.
The benefits, the risks.
The risks, the different approaches.
Yeah.
The importance of, democratic control.
Hopefully we've got you thinking about all of this.
And inspired you to join the conversation.
To get involved.
Because the future's
not set in stone.
It's not preordained.
It's something we're creating through our choices.
So stay curious, stay informed.
Stay engaged.
And that is the deep dive.
Until next time.
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
It's
like we're standing here looking out at this future. And it's full of potential, but also like a lot of scary stuff too.
Risks,
Big risks.
And it's all happening now. The decisions we make.
Right now.
The investments we make.
Yeah.
The conversations we have.
So what can we do, like as, regular people, to make sure AI is actually used for good?
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like...
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we're powerless.
Okay, so what can we do?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to stay informed.
Okay.
We need to understand
how it works.
How AI works, what it can do, and, all the ethical stuff around it.
But that's tough. It is tough.
Because AI is constantly...
It's evolving so fast.
Yeah. So, where do you even start?
There's a ton of resources.
Okay.
Online, podcasts, articles, documentaries.
Okay.
Don't underestimate just,
talking to people?
Talking about it with your friends, your family.
Yeah.
The more we talk about AI, the more awareness we raise. Right. So it's not just about being like a tech expert. It's
about having those conversations.
Yeah.
About the future we want.
Yeah. And we need to have them like everywhere, right?
Everywhere. Talk to your elected officials.
Yeah.
Push for responsible regulation.
Yeah.
Hold these tech companies accountable.
And that brings us back to the article. It says this whole race for AI.
That's about control.
Is about control.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure it's used to, help humanity.
To help people, not just the people in power. Right.
So we have to democratize it, but what does that even like?
Yeah, what does that look like?
Me.
It means giving everyone a voice.
Right.
Not just governments and companies.
Right.
It means transparency in these systems, accountability,
making sure they respect like
human rights.
Our values.
Yeah, our values.
It's a huge challenge.
Really big challenge.
We can't ignore it.
We can't. If AI is the ultimate power, we have to share that power fairly.
We can't just sit back and assume everything's gonna
for the best.
be okay.
No.
Yeah.
We need to be a part of shaping this.
Yeah.
We need to be critical thinkers.
Right.
Informed citizens.
And advocate for
the
world we want to see.
The future we want, yeah.
Well, I think we've covered
We have explored a lot
of ground today about AI.
The benefits, the risks, the different approaches.
The importance of,
democratic control.
Yeah, democratic control.
Hopefully it's given you a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Inspired you to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, this future...
It's not predetermined.
It's not set in stone.
It's something we are creating.
Yeah, so stay curious.
Stay informed. Stay engaged.
The future is...
It's in our hands.
In our hands. And that is the deep dive. See you next time.